Hi guys, Chaz916 here. Welcome to my RPG channel. First off, I was about, I guess 10, maybe 15 minutes into the video of the 2024 Player's Handbook, Everything You Need to Know. Just put out, it was about 5 hours ago, by the WOTC, and, I got 15 minutes into it, and I just decided I gotta do a reaction video on this one. And the reason is because my reactions to it are that strong. And I don't know if I want to spoil this for you, but let me give you a heads up. You may have trouble getting through this video. And the reason is because of the art. So, let's get started, and I'll show you what I mean.
This is the largest player's handbook the game has ever had. It has been rebuilt from the ground up. It is filled with new options as well
Are you guys seeing this art?
as returning options that have been refined, reimagined, rebalanced, and the whole book has also been restructured to aid reference at the table, to make it easier than ever before to create a character, and we have also packed it with enough new options that even people who have been playing this game for a decade will find whole new ways to customize their characters, between the different...
Okay, now, I love art, and I do a little bit of artwork myself. Nothing on this scale. I mean, if you've seen my Instagram, you know I've done artwork. I did the mechs that I put up. I've done other things, mostly line art. But the artwork in this video, they talked about they were going to be putting a lot of art into this, and how much was going to be in it. But I really wasn't thinking about it because I was focused on the UA, trying to see how the game was going to be better. But, so, this just didn't occur to me. I know he's talking about a lot of really important stuff, but they should not be showing this much good art while they're talking because it is distracting. Which means I'm going to have to watch this again, which is annoying because, watching the videos more than... Anyway, I'm going to get back to it now. I'm sorry, I'm ranting again.
Class features, the subclass options, the new feats, the new equipment options, the new crafting rules, the new spells, the revised spells. You combine all of that, and this is like having the game that you were already playing completely like glowed up. It says it's just top to bottom has been improved.
It's been very distracting for me because I should be doing my work and doing research, but I'm mostly looking at different character builds now, using like weapon mastery or how sneak attack works, because there's a lot of systems in this, but it's very...
Yeah, I'm kind of with him. I can't wait to start building characters in this. I haven't done any except for the ones for playtest, and I have no idea how those have changed in the final version, so I am really looking forward to digging into it. I hope you guys are as excited about it as I am. And I think I better get back to the video or we are not going to get through this.
Simple at the same time. Like it has a momentum as you're reading it and an excitement.
And that really gets at one of our core goals, which was streamline as much as possible while also trying to make it easier than ever before to engage with the game while also making it deeper.
Look at that. I mean, how am I supposed to focus on what he's saying? Look at the art. Okay, I know it's not like classic art or whatever, but I just love the look and the feel of it. To the art department, thank you. This was so much needed.
Giving you more ways to imagine your character, more tactical options. We have specially focused when it comes to tactical options on making the weapon experience more rich. So if you're playing a weapon-focused character, you are going to have a level of tactical excitement that your character never had before. You're going to find ways of, from level to level, evolving how your character plays, because just shifting from using the mastery option of one weapon to using the mastery option of another is going to sometimes subtly change how the game plays for you, and then other times not so subtly. It will be a dramatic shift. Now, people who focus more on the magic end of the spectrum are also going to find, when they dive into this massive spell chapter, over 100 pages long, close to 400 spells, many revised, a number brand new, some returning from books like Xanathar's Guide and Tasha's Cauldron, but even those reimagined. But also they're going to have non-combat options that they didn't have before, ways to enrich their social interaction scenes, their exploration scenes.
Oh, sorry guys. I know I gotta stop doing this, but the artwork is just so good. I gotta start listening to him. Gotta start focusing on what he's saying. So, that's not easy to do. Just so you know, you've been warned. It doesn't seem to, I don't know if it's gonna get any easier. Let's hope so.
In ways that they couldn't before. And then we did the same with our weapon-focused characters. Again, something that people got to see as a part of the Unearthed Arcana process, that we made sure that classes that before, like say the Barbarian, that were primarily combat-focused, now have ways to contribute outside combat. There was no corner of the game that we did not zero in on as we built this new player's handbook, and as we build the new Dungeon Master's Guide and the new Monster Manual. Every part of the game, whether it relates to the combat pillar, the exploration pillar, or the social interaction pillar, has gotten a fresh coat of paint with new ways to play, and in some cases, surprises that people didn't even get to see as a part of the Unearthed Arcana process. Great example of that in the player's handbook are the brand new crafting rules.
There were always moments in the last 10 years of playing the game that you sometimes would find.
Okay, so they're mentioning crafting rules. Are those in the player's handbook? Okay. I guess I better listen. Okay.
Find a moment, I wish I could do this, or I could wish there was a rule for that. Well, now there is. Like, if I wanted to use my sneak attack to knock out a target, rather than kill them, that's there now. Like, as a barbarian, if I want to feel like I'm channeling something primal in myself and maybe use my strength score to actually inform like perception or stealth, there's a moment where you can do that. And that's why I'm so obsessed with making new combos. What's the most exciting thing for you, Chris?
It's hard to nail down. There's a lot of things. I love how information has been reorganized in the book so I can find things easier. The rules glossary, I think, is going to be a huge boon to a lot of players. Having a centralized place where all the rules are very clearly and concisely defined. But on a more selfish level, I am delighted by the weapon mastery properties. Jeremy and I were in a game recently where I was playing a fighter, but we were playing basically 2014 characters. And having play tested the weapon mastery stuff for the better part of a year now, it was a bit of a shock to go back to a fighter that didn't have that. And I think a lot of players who like hitting things with weapons are going to be as delighted as I have been. I feel playing a fighter without it now rather naked and exposed.
But it is like a remarkable feeling. Like, you have it not only drives, like, I'm swinging a sword, but I'm also doing this. Like, maybe, I'm using this weapon, maybe I'm knocking you back. Maybe I missed, and I'm still grazing you and doing damage. And you're making now choices that make those weapons important. Like, if you're using a scimitar, a dagger, if you're using a heavy crossbow, there's an advantage to it. It has a tactic to it. Like, I can't imagine.
Okay, we got into the weapon masteries and stuff in the UA. I liked the concept. There were problems with it. There were good points to it. Hopefully they've addressed those, and we are going to see some really good stuff. I saw some of the suggestions that people made and ideas that were passed around. They were really nice. I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes out.
Martial classes without this now.
Yeah, I think one of the amazing things about this opportunity to revise the books is we can do more wish fulfillment.
Yeah.
Because we're building on a system that is sound and tried and true and that people love. We can now take 10 years of feedback of, oh, I wish the game did this, or I wish this class did that, and deliver on those wishes.
It also means that with the core rules in the book, so, in addition to all the fun character options and whatnot, well, the rules themselves that run.
Oh, man. It is fantasy, it's fun, and it's very distinctive art. Really like it. A little comical, but really, really nice. Great work, guys. Sorry, I gotta get back to the game.
Run the game have also been enhanced, where we were able to take things that maybe have been house rules for people over the past 10 years and make them a core part of the game. Great example of this. Many people over the last 10 years have allowed people to drink potions as a bonus action, feeling it was way too punishing running the rules as they were written in 2014 to have to spend your entire action drinking a potion.
Well, obviously, video games have been that way for ages. I mean, when you play a video game, you can drink a potion and then do your action. Why wouldn't we allow it? What took you guys so long?
Particularly scary if you're dying and you're drinking that healing potion. And so people are going to find that now healing potions take a bonus action to drink. And there are...
About time!
Shifts like that.
There is cheering happening right now while this video is playing.
Yeah. And there are shifts like that everywhere you look in the rules, that it will feel like the game you've been playing, but everywhere you look, enhanced.
As you are looking through the player's handbook, as you're making your character, there's such intentional design behind everything. Every piece of art, the layout. I can flip through this book and in seconds know where I am.
All of those choices were very intentionally made. Often with our books, what we typically do, we will write and then we will sort of later in the process begin working with the book's art director to come up with how the book is going to look. In this case, the art directors, Tanji and Josh Herman, were a part of the conceptualization of the book from the very beginning.
The text and art has just completely gone hand in hand throughout this whole process. The art style hasn't changed because we still have a lot of amazing returning D&D artists come back to join us in this adventure. They have such a wonderful sense to bring in their own experiences and their own takes on our art orders. So I mean, like, we truly did do it with intention, but we can't take all the credit because it's also the partners we work with that take it, beyond into the next level.
There's a lot of stuff that went into the covers. We kind of wanted to approach them all up as a set. So working with Tyler.
Nice. I like these much better than I like the alt covers. The alt covers to me weren't all that great, but these I like.
Jacobson across all three was a really great experience because he had also done the covers before. So when, at least he had done the Player's Handbook and he had done the Dungeon Master's Guide in 2014. So we got a chance to kind of reapproach them with a different perspective and what we wanted to do and try to figure out what that was. And we definitely referenced second edition, you know, and Easley Elmore, you know, that sort of original D&D artwork. We wanted to kind of bring back some of that flavor, especially in the shape language and the colors and sort of just the compositions, and to kind of evoke a little bit of that classic fantasy vibe, right? So hopefully all three of the covers kind of give you a little bit of that.
And for the new player's handbook, the art we have here, these are some famous D&D heroes. Mm-hmm. And you've got the gold dragon, and you've got the red dragon below, and the most vicious looking kobolds I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Probably in D&D.
Yeah.
But there's like, it's a moment. It is a moment in time. And that's something we've talked about before with all the art that is in the new player's handbook, is it always feels like almost like a photo.
Yes.
In a moment of an adventure, whether it's right before something happens or the apex of something happening, but it feels like a day in the life of an adventurer.
And that's intentional, right? We wanted to provide storytelling in all of these images. We wanted to give you, the players, the fans, an image, like you said, that is a snapshot in time, but ideally we try to focus that snapshot in time right before an event has happened or right after an event has happened. Like you said, the gold dragon and the red dragon and sort of this party in the middle and the kobolds coming from the side, and what is going to happen, who's going to win, right? You know, same thing if you look at like the monster manual, like very much in the thick of it, but right before the real action happens, right? Like almost like at the end of round one in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what's the rest of the fight going to be? The person that gets picked up by the tentacle is your unlucky party member for sure. Probably happens to them every game all the time. And then on the DMG, you've got sort of we very much also reference previous editions with the cover of the door being opened. Right. So what does it look like inside of the door? What could that DM be?
Yeah. Like I said, guys, the artwork and the work that they did on incorporating it into every aspect of these 3 volumes. It looks like to me they've done a good job. And I'm really excited to get them. I probably would have bought them anyway, but to tell you the truth, I would have bought them even if I didn't play D&D. I like the art that much. It's just really good. And thanks, guys. The people they put in charge of it did a really good job. Wow.
Prepping you for what is that set case or that show piece that you're going to be facing. So with the DMG cover, you've got, you know, sort of your multiple casts of characters, all the way from your grunts down to your skeletons, to Avenger, sort of your campaign level villain, or Warduke and sort of like almost a henchman mini boss of a campaign, right? And then you've got a looming threat in the back. So something that has a lot to look at, that you can pull a lot of storytelling out of, hopefully, was very intentional for all 3 of these.
There was so much planning that went ahead before these subclasses art, because there's 48 of them.
Yeah.
And Josh, Herman, and we just both worked on this giant matrix of like the characters. Okay, you know, like, are we covering our tieflings? Are we covering our halflings? You know, like, make sure that we just have a wide variety of characters we want to show, because 48, that's pretty spectacular, you know. And then to also make sure they complemented the classes as well. So some that leaned into the tropes, and others that kind of were a nice, unique new spin. An example of how I hope this art will inspire others is that I've never wanted to really play a spellcaster. I'm like, it's too hard. It's just so much you have to manage, and I'm sure it's not. But then I saw some of the warlocks, like, holy moly, you know, like the wizards. I'm like, okay, I would absolutely jump into playing a character like that. And I'm hoping that's what this art will do to inspire some of our players.
Okay, guys. I'm talking to you 2. I gotta tell you, next time, don't show so much good art, because it is so distracting. If you're trying to, I don't know if this is supposed to be a show or what. I mean, I know you're trying to tell us about the new the new player's handbook, but you're being overshadowed because the art that you are flipping over is distracting completely from what you are saying. My advice, when you create a video, don't do that. Show the artwork strategically, in between. But I'm having a hard time following you. It's that good. And I know what you're saying is really good. And I'm going to get to that. I'll have to watch the video again, which, of course, is probably, okay too. And if you're looking to make money off of views, you're going to get it. But, for my own sanity, it makes it very, very hard. Sorry, guys. Let's get back to this before I go crazy.
We mapped out not only the subjects we wanted portrayed in the art, but the style of the art in each chapter. And so that's why when you look at the character creation chapter, there's line art, because we wanted you to have this sense of when you're making a character, you're like almost writing with pencil. And many of us, when we're making a character, will change our minds a bunch of times, whether we're making the character on D&D Beyond or typing it on our laptop or writing it with paper and pencil. We'll think, we'll change, we'll go back. And so we wanted the art itself to subtly point at that process, which is why in that chapter you have the line art. But then when you get to your class chapter, where you're making the most important choice for your character's class, you are just dazzled by full-page pieces of art for every class, by key pieces of art for every single subclass. Then it keeps going in terms of the beauty when you then get to the character origins chapter and you see the different backgrounds available to your character.
And they're literally backgrounds.
They're literally backgrounds.
I love that the most, because you're not
That was a really, really good idea, what you're doing here. I love that. The artwork is not only great, but the way it was integrated into the game, and not even integrated, the way it was built with the game. I like that you guys did that. Thank you.
interjecting a character to describe hey, this is what Charlatan looks like. You're just giving, this is the green screen background that your character will be inserted into.
Yes.
Right?
But also, more than that, the backgrounds themselves have all been redesigned, and the entire background system has been reimagined as one half of your character's origin, the other half being your character's species, and the two together interlock to give you a view of who your character was before they became an adventurer.
And
but
it's very intentional, because you get a feat based off your background and skills on top of that, and that free feat really informs, well, of course I would have this feat starting off because this is the background I come from. That makes perfect sense. I just like how that's tied together, and that also informs the ability scores.
Yes, and I know we'll be digging deeper into character origins in one of our other videos. But one of the major changes for backgrounds is exactly that they now give you an ability score bonus, or rather set of bonuses. And this is actually going to be new even for people who were part of the Unearthed Arcana process, because in the final version of the backgrounds, each background now lists 3 ability scores. And if you select that background, you then choose how you want to distribute your bonus there. So you can either have +2 in one of them and +1 in another, or you can have +1 in all 3 of them. Mm-hmm. And so you have a tremendous amount of flexibility to pair different backgrounds with different classes, because what we wanted to do is make it so that the backgrounds were as flexible as possible to support as many different character concepts as possible.
How have you meddled with the Player's Handbook?
Okay. I like what they're doing with the backgrounds. Sorry, guys. I like it a lot. And I like the things that they've done with it. I liked it in the playtest. I like it even more now that they have kind of said what I thought all along, and that is that your background is very, very important to how your character got to the point where he became an adventurer. It's at least half of it, and I'm glad that they built on that idea a lot. Okay.
I don't think. What's a nicer way? I was like, "What'd you do on the player's handbook?" I like.
Well, let's see. Jeremy and I were in the room hashing out the outline for the book.
Yep.
Yeah.
With our good friend and former boss Ray Winninger early on. So I had a hand in sort of sculpting the shape of the book, with Jeremy leading that work, of course. And then I injected myself at various points everywhere I could, creating new spells for the spells chapter, rewriting text from the 2014 book to make it suitable for the 2024 revision.
All three of the books we mapped out, Chris, Ray, and I, we mapped out together. And what people are going to see when all three books are out is that intentionality that you talked about, Todd, that we not only carefully plotted out the player's handbook that you've now seen, but also very carefully plotted out the Dungeon Master's Guide, and very carefully plotted out the Monster Manual, and plotted out how the three books integrate with each other. And so in many ways, we view the three books as one massive book that's simply too big to publish as a single volume, because it would be about 1,000 pages long.
And that's
Okay, so that is the alternate covers, I think. And they're okay. I mean, I'm not real fond of them, but they're okay. I mean, I know there was a lot of flack online about them. I don't know. I thought they were okay. They're not my cup of tea, but you know.
speaks again to the intention of design on all of this. It is remarkable to see how these are all interconnected. I mean, this is an amazing day because this is the first day you can pre-order all three books. What I've seen of the DMG is so much friendlier to a new dungeon master, and what I've heard is so exciting, and everything I've heard about the monster manual, and it does.
Okay, so we're getting at least one reason why this video is out. It's like to try to, this is a sales book. And you guys are doing a good job of it, because I'm going to pre-order.
I feel like this is one cohesive project in a way that we haven't seen before.
It's so cohesive that there is essentially a piece of the monster manual in the player's handbook.
Right.
We were able to coordinate the work in a way that we had never done before, where that was essentially monster manual work we were doing as a part of our player's handbook work, building the creature appendix that is in this player's handbook. The new creature appendix is even bigger than the one that was in the 2014 PH. The creatures have been carefully selected to be in the player's handbook. So, great example of this intentionality. Now, when you go to the equipment chapter and you see a list of available mounts, well, every one of those mounts now has a stat block in the same book. And similarly, when it comes to your familiar options, if you cast Find Familiar, or if you're a warlock with your enhanced familiar options, all those options are present. We also made sure that druids had a really good starting selection of creatures that they could transform into using wild shape. Now, our friends who
I am really happy to hear that, because we did not have a really good selection. Having a bigger selection is much, much better. Not only for the players, but for the GM, because I like it. I like it to be surprised when the characters do amazing things with their abilities. And help me to create incredible things.
who use the Circle of the Moon subclass, they're still going to need to visit the monster manual eventually when they get.
Back before Skyrim, I didn't really care for orcs that much. The artwork for orcs is definitely much, much better than it used to be. I really like that class now. I mean, not race. Race is a stupid term. That's species, because in Skyrim, I liked it. It was a lot of fun to play. And in D&D, I think it's going to be really cool. Okay.
High enough level because we simply did not have enough pages in the player's handbook to have all the beasts that Circle of the Moon Druid might want available. But even for them, we have a nice selection of beast options so that you can start playing with your main features in this book using the content that is all inside this very book.
Yeah. And because we have 10 years of feedback on the 2014 books, we also knew that we were going to be making some adjustments to our stat block format.
Yes.
To make our stat blocks even easier to run and more fun to run. But that work is not confined only to the monster manual. Going back to the idea that this is a 1,000+ page book broken up into 3 pieces, that stat block revision work impacts all 3 books.
And you'll see that not only in the creature appendix, but also in the Ranger Beastmaster subclass, where that subclass has been completely redesigned, largely inspired by work we did in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, but even going beyond what we did in Tasha's. The stat blocks for that Ranger's friends have been redesigned. All of the stat blocks that appear in the new summoning spells that are in the book have been redesigned, all with this view toward making our stat blocks easier to use, and also really getting under the hood of every stat block and making sure that the creature is delivering the goods when it comes to the damage it deals, its resilience, and also its fun.
You mentioned summoning spells, and again, like what I love about the new player's handbook is everything you need is in the new player's handbook. Like if you want to wild shape, if you want to summon a familiar, but the summoning spells have various options of the type of that creature that you want to use. So if it's an aberration, if it's undead, if it's a fiend, you're not just having to select this one type of stat block creature, you have a variety of options. So if you love summoning and you like to be tactical, it's just layers of options with one singular spell, and you have all the stats you need to just run it. You don't need to grab another book and go hunt something down. It's all.
Yeah, I like that too, because I like playing summoners. I mean, I know it's not everyone's favorite class, but it is definitely one of mine. So I'm happy that they are, sorry about the little beeps, but I want to make sure this thing doesn't stop on me. There we go. Yeah, and we got more variety. So the player in me is really excited, and the DM in me is even more excited. So.
On the player's handbook.
And that was something that people loved when we first introduced it in Tasha's Cauldron. And so we were excited to be able to take that approach to summoning and incorporate it into the game's core. But even people who are familiar with those spells in Tasha's will have some fun surprises because all of those spells have been enhanced for the player's handbook. And so they, like everything else, are glowed up. And we even have other parts of the book where options that maybe first appeared in Tasha's Cauldron now appear here and have been enhanced. Great example, the Soul Knife in the Rogue, the Psy Warrior in the Fighter, Aberrant Sorcery in the Sorcerer. I bring up
all my psionic boys.
Yes, all a part of our desire to bring more psionics into the core game.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it used to be a very interesting class, except that it got to be overpowered because psionic people in the game could do anything with their minds that you could do any other way. I mean, it was just basically they overshadowed players and overpowered, the attacks were too fast and just so many problems with it. I just hope it doesn't get that way again. I would really like to see a psychic class where there was just some basics, where you could do, you were telepathic and maybe you had precog, and you kept the things down to something that is just mostly the most common stuff associated with it, instead of trying to turn it into a class that can do everything, which is basically what happened with the last one. So I'm going to be looking at that part really, really close.
This was actually something that we talked about doing over a decade ago in the 2014 Player's Handbook, and we frankly just didn't have time to do it over a decade ago. And so we thought, now we have the time. And I like to think of it as the great old one warlock now having their friends show up, so we can you can now have your full
party.
your full psionic crew. Whereas before in 2014, the great old one warlock was wondering where all their psionic buddies were, and they've now all shown up for the party.
The gray old one is nasty now.
In
Gray
all
old
the
one
best
is new
ways.
and super nasty. It gets in your head literally to have some nice advantages in combat.
Yes.
There are significant, lovely changes to so many of these subclasses that just amp them up to more what you wanted to do, more what the kind of core concept was. Again, the Feywild patron for the Warlock, you are just teleporting everywhere. You are just bouncing, and with every time you do use Misty Step, there's a new added on effect. And it just feels like you've made a pact with a Fey creature. Like, it makes narrative sense. And it gets me excited for like the tactical things I can do with all these subclasses, because I feel like there might have been gaps before in the 2014 versions, and now those have been filled in for that wish fulfillment that we all have.
The Archfey Patron Warlock is a great example of a subclass that didn't just get tweaked. It's
Okay, guys, so to the people out there, those who like games that are simpler, that's not D&D. It never was. This is a nerd game. And yes, it gets a little complicated, but I think that's where we get a lot of our fun from. Just creating the character and then playing it is a very unique kind of thing. And I'm not saying that you have to be a nerd to play D&D, because you don't. But it feeds my inner nerd, okay? Always has, always will. That's just the way it is.
basically a new subclass.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this book has 3 brand new subclasses that have never appeared in a D&D book before. We have the Circle of the Sea in the Druid, we have the College of Dance in the Bard, and the Path of the World Tree in the Barbarian. But again, just as the Archfey Patron Warlock has been so redesigned that it's essentially a new subclass, there are other subclasses like that as well. The Warrior of the Elements in the Monk has been so heavily reimagined, it's essentially a brand new subclass. The Beastmaster in the Ranger, essentially a brand new subclass. And when we do videos on individual classes, we can dig deeper in other subclasses like them that are essentially brand new. And then we have other subclasses that are going to feel very familiar to people while at the same time having brand new options inside them.
And again, remember that like Weapon Mastery has left no class that uses Weapon Mastery untouched. Like that has changed the game.
Yes.
If you're a Paladin, if you're a Ranger, a Barbarian, a Rogue, a Fighter, the game is different now.
Absolutely. Every single class that is weapon focused, your play experience is going to be different now and more fun and more tactically interesting because of Weapon Mastery. Weapon Mastery is so juicy that through feats, we've also made it so that even if you're a member of a class who doesn't get it, you can take a feat to dip your toe into the Weapon Mastery pool. Just as we've always had a feat that allows non-spellcasters, the Magic Initiate feat, to get a little bit of that spellcasting flavor.
I feel like the feats have also focused more on that wish fulfillment of there's like the Skulker feat, and that has changed, where you really feel like, okay, now I can like attack in combat and not necessarily reveal myself. There's new features that make you feel like this feat, how I feel it should play, is playing that way now.
And there are way more feats.
There are a lot of feats.
But this book has 75 feats in it.
Yeah.
And it includes not only a suite of feats that are for first level characters that they get through their backgrounds, but we also now have epic boon feats that unlock for you when you reach level 19. And then between those epic feats and your what are called origin feats that you get at first level, you have many of the feats that were available to you before in the 2014 Player's Handbook.
I think one of the challenges from my DM side this time is that I'm going to have to come up with adventures that are going to be challenging enough and interesting enough that people will actually get to play those epic feats. It's a challenge, and I want to do that. I want to be able to create some adventures that will take advantage of that and still challenge them, even with that much power. Wow, that's a challenge for me and for future DMs, whatever you call yourselves.
Along with a number of new feats, some of which have migrated into the Player's Handbook from Tasha's Cauldron, and then have been enhanced in a variety of ways. We also have some things in the game that previously existed inside class features. So a great example of this are the fighting styles.
Right.
That shared tech has now migrated out of the classes into the feat system. And in addition to that, now in that category, for example, in the fighting style category, there are also now more options than there were in 2014.
All of this was done in consultation with the community through the Unearthed Arcana articles. Those articles helped inform us about how far could we go with the design. You know, how far was too far, how far was just right. And a lot of time and energy was spent by Jeremy and others poring over the information that the community was giving us, the feedback that they were giving us on the subclasses, on the feats. I think that there were times when we even, I think, pushed even farther than the fans really wanted to go, but they helped rein us in.
Okay, but that's true, and they did rein you in, but some of us wanted you to push it even more. But I think you did better. We'll see. I'm going to be reading this handbook with very clear eyes. I'm going to be doing a lot of coffee first, and then I'm going to be reading it.
In a little bit. What came out the other end, I think, is going to just surprise and delight people. And for people who have been invested in UA and paying very close attention to what's going on, they're still going to be surprised because some of the feedback they gave us led us down interesting, fun paths. And but they're also going to see, oh, these guys actually, you know, they took the feedback that I gave them and they made it better. And this is going to so amp up my game.
And those shifts that we made based on the invaluable feedback that the community provided are really going to result in that surprise you're talking about, Chris. Like, for example, in the Unearthed Arcana process, we tried several different approaches to inspiration and how that rule works. Well, the version that's in the Player's Handbook never appeared in any of the Unearthed Arcana articles, but it was inspired by feedback that we received, because and it is now called heroic inspiration. Right. Rather than dealing with advantage, which is what inspiration did in 2014, we realized this rule needs to play better with the rest of the game. And the game is already chock full of ways to get advantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the final version of it is it is now a reroll, so not advantage, but is a reroll that the player can apply to any roll, not just d20 rolls. Because what we realized is we also wanted you to be happy you have this, even when, let's say, you're rolling the amount of hit points you restore to somebody with a healing spell, or you're rolling damage, or the DM has you randomly roll a die for some mysterious reason, like DMs sometimes do. We want players to have this little ace in their pocket of, all right, I always know if I have heroic inspiration, if I roll really bad, no matter what the die roll is, I can use it and re-roll and hope I get something better.
Okay, now this I really like because I think rolling with advantage, it is used everywhere, for everything. Too much, because I think it takes out some of the fun. So I'm glad that they stopped using that, and I like what they're using now. I like the re-roll. I really, really think that that's a much better version, and I can see where it's going to be a lot of fun to see how that changes things and the opportunities that it's going to bring. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting into playing.
And we're showing you as much art as we can, and layout and page design, and even then it's not the same as holding it.
Well, I haven't seen much of the page design, dude, but the art I'm seeing and I'm liking.
Especially when it comes to like the alt covers as well. Yeah. There is a texture, there is a way the light hits the gold that you can't really describe.
Yeah, the alt covers were really fun as well. We went sort of intentionally the opposite direction in the alt covers. We wanted to do something that was quiet and reserved and really paid homage to these being books, right? To TRPG books, right? This is a place of people where they're gonna, you're gonna buy these at your friendly local game store. You're going in person to pick up a physical object. That sort of classic fairy tale style of a book kind of came to mind as an idea of this feels like it both pays homage, but also is like a nice update and similar but different than what we've done before. So, and also a very big contrast to the traditionals.
So for the Player's Handbook, we've got another iteration of the gold.
Okay, so, well, like I said, it's not my kind of artwork, but I do understand why they came to the direction that they came from, and I kind of think that's kind of cool. Yeah. I get it, I think.
Dragon.
We have a gold dragon on the cover, having some tea with some friends. Wiley Beckert is the artist there. And they just really nailed it, the kind of vibe that we were going for of, we want something cozy, we want something calm, we want something that calls back to sort of classic storytale illustrations. We want a relatively tight color palette here. But I guess the thing I'll say about the alt covers is you have to see them in person, because the gold foil treatment that's on them, the sort of soft touch to the cover, them being on a foil cover as well. So when you move them around, the way that the light hits them, the gold framing has beautiful shine to it, but the actual cover itself has almost like a lenticular style of foil. So when you see them, they're really beautiful and they're really different. And what I hope for these covers is, these, and also intentional in the style of these, is that I hope that people hang on to these for a long time, and I hope they get a lot of wear and tear. And I hope that, 10 years from now, these sit on a bookshelf next to other well-loved and well-used books and feel right at home.
I'm also excited for people, when they get the book in their hands, to page through it from beginning to end. We're hoping people will even read the introduction. We made it super short,
it is short. Yeah.
So they'll read it. But the introduction does things like talk about the main components you need to play, which the Player's Handbook in the past has not done. It also, for anyone coming from the 2014 Player's Handbook, has a really critical sidebar that talks about what's new in the book. Also clarifies that this book, if basically when you activate it in your game, this book does replace the 2014 Player's Handbook, and I think it's important for people to understand that, so we don't have people sort of trying to mix and match pieces of the two Player's Handbooks, but you can absolutely use this Player's Handbook with the adventures you already have for 5th edition.
But you can play a character from this new Player's Handbook right next to a character using the 2014 Player's Handbook as well. That's still true.
Absolutely. We have designed the new Player's Handbook so that characters built with it can be played with characters built with the 2014 Player's Handbook.
Yeah.
Now, that is true for the character options themselves. When it comes to the sort of baseline rules, the combat rules, the definitions of the conditions and whatnot.
Yeah.
If you are playing a 2014 character with 2024 characters, we have designed things so that the 2024 rules are what should be used in that situation.
Yeah.
Because those rules can handle a 2014 character being present, but the...
Okay, so there's probably going to be some people out there that are going, well, the way he's talking, this means that they're not really compatible, but that's not true. What they designed it to do was so that you could still play your old characters, but you should, or at least they think that you're going to want to play using all of the new rules. And I think that's true because I think it's going to be better, and I think that we will still do homebrewing for rules. We always have, we always will. We want to make the game our own. That isn't going to change. And there are going to be distractors out there who are going to say, hey, they promise complete compatibility, and that isn't there. But it is. It is compatible with the materials so that you can use them, but you should play with the new rules because the new rules are better. That's all they're saying. And everybody's going to have to make their own choice on that. And I'm pretty much made mine. And I know that a lot of people who did the playtest agreed with me. And I'm hoping that most of you guys out there agree that these rules are better. And if not, then maybe we need to start working on the next version. I don't know. Let me know. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'd really like to know what you think about the compatibility issue that they've worked on and some of the other stuff. So, okay, let's get back to the good stuff now.
2014 version of the rules will grind in a few places with a 2024 character. Sometimes because of terms used in the 2024 character that only have definitions now in the 2024 rules, whereas you again can take a 2014 character and play them in a 2024 game.
And that is to their advantage, like being able to drink a potion with a bonus action.
Exactly. You're going to want even your 2014 character to be swimming in a 2024 pool because of the many improvements to the core rules.
Absolutely.
But then you'll go from that introduction into the first chapter, which teaches all the main rules of the game. Also sort of gets you used to referring to the rules glossary, because the book often, rather than going super deep on a particular rules topic, will give you the basics and then send you to the rules glossary for the nitty-gritty. Other times you'll get all of it in one place, depending on, is there a version of the rule that you can learn that's just part of it versus do you need to know all of it at once?
Yeah.
And that first chapter has longer examples of play than we've ever done in a player's handbook
and those
before.
are fantastic. It's like you even have like art of the players around the table, and this happens, and this is what you rolled, and this is how that affected the game.
Along with commentary that explains what it is that you're reading about in that example of play. When you get to the character creation chapter, you, in addition to seeing the fun line art, are going to be brought step by step through the character creation process in a way that we've never done before, with also a lot of handy sort of get started quick bits in the chapter. Here's an example. When it comes time for you to assign your ability scores, if you've ever struggled, whether you're a brand new D&D player or maybe you're a veteran player but you're playing a class you haven't played before and you've struggled with, well, how should I assign my ability scores? Particularly if you're using the standard array or point buy. Well, we now provide suggested ability score arrays for every class in the book so that you can get started playing quickly. If you really love optimizing your character, and when you choose your background, you're not just interested in its story implications, but you're really interested in how it's going to affect your ability scores. Well, knowing that there are players where that kind of optimization is important to them, the character creation chapter has a table that tells you, here are the backgrounds to choose if you are looking for backgrounds that bump these certain ability scores.
That's fantastic.
And we provide that kind of assistance throughout the chapter. It goes even further than making a character at first level. It also provides rules for making a character at higher levels. We really want people to embrace this idea we've talked about throughout 5th edition, that if you're playing with a group of experienced players and you want your brand new party to hit the ground running as a group of adventurers, we encourage you to start at 3rd level, not 1st. 3rd level is when every class now gets their subclass and all of their main class abilities. And to support starting at 3rd level, we have now the rules for starting at that level in the Player's Handbook, as well as at any other level. So if you want to start a character at 18th level because your DM wants you to dive right into epic play, the rules for that are in the Player's Handbook too. And then
I'm going to look at that pretty closely because it sounds like a great idea, but I want to see how well they've done it. I have one question though. If people are better off starting at 3rd level, why didn't they make 3rd level 1st level? I mean, wouldn't that have worked better? I don't know. I'd like to know you guys' ideas in comments. Please put them in the comment section below.
And you go from there into classes, character origins, feats, equipment, and spells.
And also the species have been, there's a lot of new there as well. Like the Goliath, all I can say is the Dragonborn feel very Dragonborn now. The Goliath feels exceptionally Goliath now.
Just the fact that there are species here who were in the 2014
Yeah, the Goliath
flick.
wasn't in there.
The Goliath wasn't there, the Aasimar wasn't there, and the Orc wasn't there. So all 3 of those species now join other options that were present in 2014, and all of them have been enhanced in various ways. The community got to see an earlier draft of those enhancements in the Unearthed Arcana process, but since our game development continues beyond then, you're going to see even more. Great example of this, the Orc's Adrenaline Rush. The last time people saw it recharged only on a long rest, but in the final version actually recharges on a short rest or a long rest. The Aasimar, for people who have not yet seen the new version, rather than choosing a celestial revelation that is sort of fixed for the rest of your character's life, you now get to choose that whenever you use that trait. And so again, there are fun new options everywhere in the book, species included.
Now, not only is the new Player's Handbook available for pre-order right now on D&D Beyond, you can find that link in the video description, but also the new core rulebooks, both digital and physical, are available for pre-order as a bundle that includes the new Dungeon Master's Guide, the new Monster Manual, and the new Player's Handbook. Can you tell me a little bit more about what's new in the Dungeon Master's Guide?
First and foremost, the Dungeon Master's Guide is bigger. Like all of the revised 5th edition books, we have added pages.
Okay, so it looks like they're going to get into things other than just the player's handbook. I'm really looking forward to this. Okay, so let's see what they got coming.
To the book. Things that were not in the 2014 book that are in this book include 5 short sample adventures, a complete campaign setting, a lore glossary, and another totally new feature of this book is the Bastions chapter. That's all new content that we wanted to get into this book, and that's why the book is one of the reasons why the book is bigger.
Why it is so chunky.
It's a chunky book. Yes, exactly. So one of the chapters of the book is called Creating Adventures, and it's all about helping the DM create adventures. There are tips and tricks that we can give you to help you do that. But all the advice aside, nothing compares to being able to see the advice being implemented. So after giving you a bunch of advice on how you can create your own adventure content for your home groups, we present 5 short adventures in a format that we think DMs will want to emulate and use for their own prep, accompanied by the maps that are in one of the appendices of the book. These adventures are meant to show you how you can create your own adventure content in a way that will be very easy for you to run at the table.
Perfect.
The campaign setting. Yes. When you are ready to build a campaign, this chapter does, I think, a very good job, a much better job of showing you what a campaign looks like by giving you an example of one, which no previous Dungeon Master's Guide has ever tried to do. And we thought the best campaign setting for this book is the Greyhawk setting. What we do is we give you a poster map in the book that has the world of Greyhawk wilderness on one side and the city of Greyhawk on the other, because we use the city of Greyhawk as a sample of what a campaign hub can be. A campaign hub is sort of where the campaign starts. It's kind of its center, its core. And then we go out beyond that. We go into the regions around the city and we describe what are some of the nearby areas of interest. Because in a campaign, as soon as you strike out from the hub, you need places to go, dungeons in the hills, or, threats in the forest, that kind of thing. We flesh that out, and then we go even broader and show you the rest of the land known as Eastern Auric, or the Flaneus, this vast region around the city of Greyhawk. We flesh out all of those domains to the extent that we believe DMs need to get sort of a lay of the land, but at the same time saying, hey DM, now that we've given you this, make it your own.
Yeah.
Put your dungeon here if you want to, add a town here if you want to, that kind of thing. It's very much built on the idea of, we're giving you a sandbox,
Yeah.
we're throwing some toys in, and we're saying, go play.
Yeah. Greyhawk is yours now.
It is, yes. That's a great way to say it. Greyhawk is yours. The next element I want to talk about is the lore glossary. The lore glossary is an alphabetical listing of some of the most famous places, figures, and materials that are so iconic to D&D that we want them to be shared knowledge among all D&D players of all ages. What is mithril in D&D? What is adamantine in D&D? That kind of
perfect.
thing. The lore glossary captures a lot of that lore that many of us old-timers have embedded in our heads, but a lot of D&D players don't.
Yeah.
And so this is just an easy, quick reference guide for people.
Okay, now that really sounds good. I like that. Because there is so much lore in the game. And I like that they're putting Greyhawk in. I don't know if they're actually going to give it to us. What I mean by that is it going to be part of an SRD so that we can actually use it? Or is this just something that they're saying? I don't know, but they're using it to help fill out examples, and I like that because, well, every world builder out there knows we need all the help we can get to make our worlds as interesting as we want them to be, as interesting as we see them in our imaginations. Okay.
People who are looking for information about this mysterious thing they just stumbled upon. So the fourth wholly new thing in the Dungeon Master's Guide that I haven't talked about yet is the Bastions chapter.
I am very, very excited for this.
So Bastions is, while the word is new to our lexicon in D&D, it's built on a very old concept, because even going all the way back to the earliest editions of D&D, there were rules for building strongholds.
Yeah.
Often you didn't get access to them, though, until you were much higher level. We have designed the Bastion system in the Dungeon Master's Guide so that characters can start building their bastions at level 5.
Wow.
These continue to grow over the life of your adventuring career, but the magnificent thing about them is...
Hey, just to give you guys kind of a historical kind of thing, this all started in a chainmail. It was a miniatures game. And, well, there was a couple of things that they still kind of lean on doing that were part of that. And one was that basically magic users are your artillery, and your fighters are your infantry, that kind of thing. And one of the things that they did was they put together some rules for building ports and things like that. And they were included even back then, which is what they're talking about moving into the new system. But it helps if you understand that people who were playing chainmail used those rules to actually create armies and things like that. It was an interesting idea. I'm not really in favor of keeping a lot of stuff from that era, because I hate the idea that magic users are infantry, and that just, I mean, you've got magic users for artillery, you've got magic users, and then you've got regular people, other classes, the fighters who are, frontline. I hated that. It's still playing a part in D&D, and that is the one thing I would really like to see them move away from. Let's stop thinking that way. I want them to stop thinking that way. I know I can't make them do that, but that's kind of the way I feel about it, because there's always going to be a disparity with fighters and mages because of that, and there shouldn't be. A skilled martial artist should be able to do just as much damage as a mage. At least in my design thoughts, or in my perfect world, if you will. Anyway.
You basically run them as kind of like a separate little activity. It does not stop you from being an adventurer.
Yeah.
Your adventurer can go around saving the multiverse, run off to the Nine Hells or run off to the Feywild, do what you have to do.
Oh, I forgot. Before I watch any more of this, there was something I wanted to mention about Bastions, because I think a lot of people overlook this, and that is that the way they are making Bastions, once they're set up, they kind of run their own thing. There's a bunch of NPCs associated with it. Those guys are all interacting while the players are out doing things. Now, the good thing is that the GM can use that, because those bastions are now a part of the world. As a GM, they are a part of my world. The things that happen there are going to also affect my world. And I can use that. I can make that a part of the story. I can use that and make it interesting. And I like that aspect. And that's why I like that they kind of made them an autonomous thing. That once they're in the game, they kind of develop a little bit of a life of their own, even when the players aren't there. And that means that they add more life to my world. And I like anything that does that.
Once your bastion is up and running, it is kind of a self-sustaining unit. And it's the players who run the bastions. So every player is in charge of their own bastion and their own bastion's maintenance. And there are these this mechanism called the bastion turn, which activates whenever the DM basically says, okay, your bastion, now take a bastion turn. You don't even have to be home for your bastion, for something to be happening in your bastion. But also, a bastion is like a mini game, a mini campaign that the player is controlling. The players are essentially DMing their own microcosms within the larger campaign, giving identities to their hirelings in the bastions, triggering events that happen in the bastions and seeing the results and consequences of those events. That's a very DM side of things. So I love the idea that the bastions are in the Dungeon Master's Guide because, in effect, it's allowing the players to get a taste of what DMing is like.
Yeah, it's very sneaky.
Yes, and it's a wonderful out-of-game activity.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great mini game.
Yeah.
Just to
when you're if the session has to be canceled or whatever, and you can't play tonight or whatever, that's okay. Your DM can just say, "Everybody, take a bastion turn."
Yeah. Send the message.
And then off the players go, and they just let the DMs know what their bastions did on that particular turn. It's a fabulous sort of game within a game.
And then we have just a massive treasury. I mean, treasure section.
Yes. So as in 2014, the biggest chapter in the Dungeon Master's Guide is the treasure chapter.
Loot.
Yes.
Oh, yes. That appeals to both my sides, the player and the DM. Yes.
Every magic item is getting, you've got a little hairy eyeball. We took a look at it. We made some refinements to it. We stuffed even more magic items into the chapter to address certain holes or gaps that we'd identified. For instance, in the 2014 DMG, there weren't a lot of common magic items, so we imported a few. We also saw opportunity to squeeze in some, shall we say, nostalgic delights. In celebration of 50th anniversary, including things like magic items used by the kids in the D&D cartoon.
Perfect. Yeah.
We've also taken another crack at the crafting magic items rules. How do you, a player, how do you, a character, craft an item of your own, with your DM's consent, of course.
And is the crafting system also in the player's handbook, or is it only the DMG?
That is a great question.
That was one of my questions, because they were mentioned when you guys were talking about the player's handbook. But really, it seems like they should be in the DMG, but okay.
So the answer is yes. There is crafting magic items in the player's handbook, but it's limited to some very simple potions and scrolls.
Okay.
So you can create
Okay, that sounds like a good idea. Okay, I can see where you would just limit it to that.
a low-level spell scroll, or you can create a potion of healing or some other low-level potion. The rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide are broader and encompass more variety.
Perfect.
We have a whole chapter on the cosmology of D&D, which talks about the worlds of D&D and the planes of existence that are out there waiting to be explored. We tried to make them more beautiful this time around. We tried to give you even more useful information as a dungeon master about some of these places, and while still making it clear that, hey, you're the DM. What you show of the multiverse is entirely up to you.
Perfect.
We haven't talked a lot about the tracking sheets.
Yeah, tell me about the tracking sheets.
So one of the fun new features that's sprinkled through the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide, like candy, are these delightfully charming tracking sheets that not only do we put in the books as kind of like a show and tell to show you what we mean, but also we're going to make them downloadable off of our website so that you can just print them out and put them in whatever you use for your campaign journal. And these sheets are designed to help you keep track of important information in your game or in your campaign. There is for instance, if you want to create a new NPC, there is a sheet that we give you that you can use and write on to capture important information about that NPC, and it's presented in a very clean, elegant way. There is a sheet that you can use to build settlements like towns and villages. There's a sheet players can use to keep track of important information about their bastions. There is a sheet you can use as a DM to keep track of the magic items that you've dispensed to the party in the course of the campaign, to keep track of important character information so that you have some information about the characters in the party readily accessible to you as a DM behind your screen. And then I think most importantly, or the sheet that I find most useful, is the session planner sheet, where you know you've got a game session next week. You can write down the key beats of what you think is going to happen, key characters, make notes and other things. These sheets are beautiful. I think they're compelling. I think a lot of DMs will want to use them or want to create versions of them. And they...
Well, you got that part right. I mean, I kind of do this stuff already, but I wouldn't mind checking out those sheets and adding, and what I can do with them. Yeah, good stuff.
They have charming little illustrations of monsters on them, which I think are absolutely delightful. Now, I haven't talked about the first 3 chapters of the book, Todd.
That's my fault. I am a terrible interviewer. Well, tell me about the...
Yes, Todd, you are.
Tell me about the first few chapters of the book.
Chapters 1, 2, and 3 are super important.
Okay.
And we put them at the front of the book because they're super important.
That's a good structure.
Chapter 1 is called The Basics.
Okay.
It is a short chapter, primarily aimed at DM curious folks who haven't DM'd or haven't DM'd much and are curious to really kind of dive in and sink their teeth into the DM role. And then when we quickly segue out of there into chapter 2, which is called Running the Game. And it is literally that. It includes a sample walkthrough of play. There are similar things in the player's handbook, but this one is more aimed at the dungeon master. When we get to chapter 3 is a weirdo. There's a bunch of topics that have to be covered that are very situational. Traps, how poisons work, siege engines, information about NPC building, a bunch of these miscellaneous topics that the 2014 DMG covered, but they were sort of scattered.
Right.
Everywhere throughout
These
the
are the
book.
building blocks.
Yes, that's a good way to look at it. Building blocks. We call chapter 3 the DM toolbox because it's just this cyclopedia of miscellaneous parts, toys that can come up in play, and we organized it alphabetically by topic.
Not toys, toolbox.
So it is this alphabetically topical listing of different things. You need more information about curses and how curses work. There's a section on curses. You need more information about hazards like green slime, yellow mold, brown mold, fireball fungus.
No.
Yes. That's all in the hazards section.
Everything feels like a new, fresh experience, and like you said, a better experience for existing players who have been playing D&D. But this also feels like the best time to learn D&D now.
It is taking the...
It's sounding a lot like the D&D I would have liked to have had from the beginning. But yeah, what I like is evolved tonight. The game is definitely keeping pace. I like it.
The wonderful bits of the 2014 Dungeon Master's Guide and resorting them and blending them in a way with new stuff that does, in fact, turn it into a new book.
Now, we've talked a lot about the new Player's Handbook, and you and I have talked a lot about the new Dungeon Master's Guide, maybe more than we should have.
Okay, so if you guys are feeling like making comments, that's something else I wouldn't mind hearing about. If you have some, I'd love to hear them. And that is, how do you feel? I mean, do you like how it's going? Do you like the way that it's going to play now? What do you guys think? I don't know.
But we also have the new Monster Manual. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sorry, I kind of lost my thought.
Has this been revamped?
So this is the largest monster manual the game has ever had. Over 500 monsters in it. And that
Oh, that's my GM's play toy. Yes. I'm going to enjoy this.
includes not only many of the classic foes that people expect to face in D&D, but also many creatures that could serve as allies. We have rebuilt every monster that was in the 2014 Monster Manual, striving to make it as fun as it can be, make sure it's as scary as it should be.
Okay, guys, I have to do this. I just had this really scary thought. Okay, let me go back here. There we go. Okay, now, imagine you are in this big dungeon, and you see this, and you have a feeling that you're going to be attacked. But it looks so cute. I mean, would you really want to attack it? And is that going to put you in trouble? I don't know, but I think I would want to collect this thing and have it as a pet. I don't want to have to fight it. Anyway, let me finish.
But
this
also
up.
many
Okay.
creatures that could serve as allies. We have rebuilt every monster that was in the 2014 Monster Manual, striving to make it as fun as it can be, make sure it's as scary as it should be for its challenge rating. But then we've also added a bunch of new monsters. There are over 75 new monsters in this book, and many of the new monsters fill in families of monsters that already existed. Great example. The game already, of course, had vampires in it and multiple types. Well, there are even more types now.
You knew that would please you, Todd.
Yes. And the additional vampire types are there because when we have looked at each of the major families of monsters, we've wanted to make sure that there were opportunities for groups to encounter that family of monster
Without getting murdered right
well,
away?
maybe sooner than they could before.
Yeah.
But also in some cases, we also wanted there to be higher CR versions of some of these families of monsters.
Oh,
so
nice.
there's a new low CR vampire, which is a vampire that is still partly mortal in the process of becoming a full vampire. But then on the other end, we have a new vampire that is more powerful than the sort of apex vampire that we had in the 2014 Monster Manual. We've also fleshed out many of the families of NPCs that existed in 2014. We wanted to make sure that those NPC groups remained
Okay, I just can't move on without saying one more time just how good the artwork is in this thing. Oh, look at that. Okay, I know. I gotta
relevant
stop doing
for
that.
more of a campaign, particularly because we know that DMs used the heck out of those NPC stat blocks that were in 2014. And so in addition to expanding out some of those NPC groups, whether it's bandits or priests or mages, we've also created new groups. So there's now a group of performers, there's now a group of pirates, and so on, because we want to make this book the indispensable tool for DMs as they're preparing adventures and campaigns to go to this book for inspiration, to be inspired by the art, by the stat blocks, by the story text, as they're creating their adventures, but then also to have a whole bunch of stat blocks that are super easy to use at the table when initiative is rolled and the DM can unleash a whole bunch of surprises.
Because there's been a little bit of extra added to them. And the art is also stunning. I've seen some of the art as it's been coming in, and that is stunning as well. And
Almost all the art in the book is new.
that's perfect.
Yes,
That's
it's
a lot of
beautiful.
art.
It's glorious.
Yes.
Yes. One of the key things that we paid attention to was making sure that if it's a pre-existing monster, its challenge rating stayed the same. And that was a necessity for us because we want to make sure that the monsters are all compatible with our previous 5th edition adventures. But we knew based on extensive playtesting and 10 years of experience, that not all the monsters were hitting their CR exactly right. So that gave us room to make some fun adjustments.
Yeah. And so there will be many monsters, particularly at the higher CRs, that are going to be far more terrifying than they were before. We also, in the monster manual, have created Apex versions of certain creature types that didn't have an Apex version.
Okay, I kind of like this because I love a good boss fight. And creatures that are at that kind of level where they can fight against a high level character are kind of few and far between. I've seen a high level character eat through a dragon without even, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. So I'm glad they're adjusting things and they're creating new Apex or bosses, and that's a good thing. I want to see that. I want that in my games. So,
Version before.
keep going.
Some of our creature types, dragons and giants being prime examples, along with our fiends, have long had really high CR, iconic examples of those creature types. We also, of course, have the Tarrasque as the apex monstrosity, but we have some other creature types that were missing a monster at that high level of difficulty. And so we have filled those gaps in the new monster manual. So that now means we have, in the construct category, we have a colossus that can just trample cities. In the ooze category, we have the blob of annihilation that can dissolve entire towns worth of people into it. I mean, a total horror. We now have an arch hag in the Fey category that can strike true terror into high-level groups, cackling while doing it.
Yes, see, this is what I was talking about. This is some good stuff here. I want high-level characters to still have fun playing, and big boss fights like this can help to make that a reality. This way I don't have to make my boss fights to just be big, powerful NPCs. I want my fantasy in it, I want the David versus Goliath. I want it all. That's all.
In the elemental category, it's interesting. Elementals, that's one of the most classic monster categories, but it too was actually missing a monster at the sort of Tarrasque tier, and it now has one in the form of the elemental juggernaut.
Well, we're about at time, but we are going to have a series of these videos coming out every single day during the weekdays. We are going to be going over different features in the player's handbook. We're going to be going over every subclass, every class, rules glossary, spells. I hope everyone doesn't get sick of me, because we're going to talk about this every single.
Yes, dude, we are going to get sick of you, but we're going to watch them, just so you know.
Day. I'm very excited that all three of these books are up for pre-order.
Oh, also, just to let you guys know, I will be covering, I do not know if I will cover all of the videos that they put out about this, but I am going to cover a lot of them. So please, join my channel. I mean, just subscribe so you can catch all the great stuff that's coming out, and so that we can talk. I want to know what you guys think about it. I want you guys involved. I want us to be what we are, a community. But and dissenting opinions are always welcome.
And that you can also pre-order the player's handbook separately. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for letting me interview you for so many years and put up with my fanboyness. But I'm so excited for these books. You've done an amazing job, and I hope you get a chance to actually enjoy any time. I know you're still working on the monster manual right now and the DMG. So
Yeah, we're still in the thick of it, but again, we were just playing D&D this past weekend, and in our hearts, we're D&D fans first, and to me, it is a wonderful sign that what I kept thinking was, I as a fan cannot wait to have these books in my hands because I want to simply be playing.
the new
Okay, as a fan and as a player and a DM, I can't wait to get these books in my hands either. And I'm not going to say you guys should go out and buy them, and I'm not going to play their advertisement of it because that's what it's looking like here. But I am going to put the URL for this video in my comment section, and if you guys want to take a look, you should see this video all the way through for yourselves. Take a look at the great art, and then maybe give it a second run so that you can listen to all the good stuff that is going to be coming out. Hey, I want to thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate you taking some time. And you guys take care. I shall see you on the next one. Bye for now.